The moment I married Daniel, I knew his mother, Evelyn, didn't like me. She had made that clear during the wedding planning, nitpicking every detail and dismissing my ideas as if I were some outsider trespassing on her perfect family. But Daniel loved me, and I thought that was enough. For a while, I tried to ignore Evelyn's snide remarks and her constant need to control everything in our lives. I told myself it was her way of showing she cared, even though it never really felt like care, more like domination. Everything changed a year into our marriage when I received an inheritance from my Aunt Margaret. Aunt Maggie had been more like a second mother to me after my parents passed away, and her sudden death left me heartbroken. I wasn't expecting to receive anything from her estate, but when the lawyer called, he explained she'd left me $150,000 to follow my dreams. It was overwhelming, and I felt a mix of gratitude and guilt, knowing she had saved this for me. Evelyn, of course, found out. Daniel must have mentioned it. He didn't understand the concept of keeping things private, especially from his mother. The day Evelyn came over uninvited, wearing her usual forced smile, I knew something was up. "Lauren, sweetheart," she said, her tone dripping with feigned warmth. "I heard about the inheritance. Such a blessing, isn't it?" I nodded cautiously. "It is." Aunt Maggie was very generous. "Well," Evelyn sighed dramatically, clasping her hands together. "I hate to bring this up, but the family estate has hit a bit of a rough patch. You know how these old properties are, constant repairs, maintenance. And with the economy the way it is," she trailed off, letting her words hang in the air like bait on a hook. I didn't bite. "That sounds stressful, Evelyn. I hope you and Mr. Preston can figure it out." Her smile faltered for a split second before she quickly recovered. "We could if we had a little help. I know it's asking a lot, but you're part of this family now. This estate is Daniel's legacy, after all. A small portion of that inheritance could make all the difference." I was stunned. I didn't know what to say, so I mumbled something about needing time to think. Over the next few days, Evelyn ramped up the pressure. She visited constantly, dropping hints about the estate's importance and how it would one day belong to me and Daniel. Daniel, ever the peacemaker, urged me to consider it. "It's for the family," he said, as if that made it okay. Reluctantly, I agreed to give her $100,000. I told myself it was the right thing to do, that keeping the peace was more important than the money. Evelyn acted grateful, but the way her eyes lit up when I handed her that check gave me a bad feeling I couldn't shake. It didn't take long for the truth to come out. A few weeks later, I overheard a conversation between Evelyn and one of her friends while they thought I was out of the house. "Oh, the estate is fine," Evelyn laughed. "That money went to something much more fun. You should see the necklace I bought, it's stunning. And I've got a trip to Paris booked for next month." My blood ran cold. I confronted her that same day, but she just laughed in my face. "What's done is done," she said smugly. "You'll get over it." But I didn't get over it. I started digging and found out that Evelyn had a history of manipulating people for money, including her own relatives. Furious, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I hired a lawyer and uncovered documents showing Evelyn had lied about the estate's financial problems. Armed with proof, I not only sued her to recover my inheritance, but also exposed her schemes to the rest of the family. Evelyn's reputation was destroyed. Her so-called friends abandoned her, and Daniel, finally seeing his mother's true colors, stood by my side. The court ruled in my favor, and I got my money back, along with a sense of justice. Evelyn still tries to contact Daniel occasionally, but I've made it clear she's no longer welcome in our lives. She can keep her estate and her lies. I have no use for either. What I do have is my dignity and the knowledge that I won't let anyone, not even family, take advantage of me again. After the court ruling, I felt a mixture of relief and anger. Evelyn had been publicly exposed for her manipulation, but the emotional toll she had taken on my life couldn't be undone. The trust one had placed in Daniel's family was shattered, and I knew I needed time to heal. Daniel, for his part, was deeply apologetic. He admitted he should have seen the warning signs earlier and regretted pushing me to give in to his mother. While I appreciated his support during the legal battle, I couldn't ignore the cracks that Evelyn's schemes had caused in our relationship. One evening, as we sat in the living room, Daniel turned to me, his face etched with worry. "Lauren, I've been thinking maybe we should move. Start fresh somewhere else, away from my mother and all the drama." I looked at him, surprised. The idea was tempting. A new city, a new home, and a chance to rebuild our lives without Evelyn's looming presence sounded like exactly what I needed. But a part of me couldn't help but wonder if running away was the solution. "I don't know, Daniel," I said cautiously. "Moving won't fix everything. We need to work on us first." He nodded, understanding. "You're right. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." In the months that followed, Daniel and I attended counseling to address the lingering issues in our marriage. Slowly, we began to rebuild our relationship. I also took steps to protect myself financially, setting up a trust for my inheritance and ensuring no one else could access it without my consent. It was empowering to take control of my life again. Evelyn, on the other hand, spiraled into isolation. The lawsuit and subsequent fallout had left her with few allies, and her extravagant lifestyle quickly caught up with her. I heard through the grapevine that she had to sell her jewelry and cancel her Paris trip to cover her mounting debts. Part of me felt vindicated, but I also pitied her. She had spent her entire life chasing wealth and control, only to end up alone. One day, out of the blue, Evelyn showed up at our doorstep. I froze when I saw her standing there, looking far less composed than usual. Her designer clothes were wrinkled, her makeup smudged, and her eyes hollow. She was a shadow of the woman who had once gloated about her manipulations. "Lauren," she began, her voice trembling. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I've lost everything, and I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm begging you. Please, can we talk?" I stared at her, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to slam the door in her face, but another part of me felt a twinge of compassion. After all, I wasn't like her. I didn't thrive on someone else's misery. Still, forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, and it certainly didn't mean allowing her back into my life. "I don't think we have anything to talk about, Evelyn," I said firmly. "You made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences." Her face crumpled, and she started to say something, but I closed the door before she could continue. Daniel, who had been listening from the kitchen, walked over and put his arm around me. "You did the right thing," he said softly. Over time, life returned to normal. Daniel and I moved forward, stronger than before, and I focused on building the future Aunt Maggie had always wanted for me. Evelyn faded into the background, a reminder of the damage greed and manipulation can cause. In the end, I learned that standing up for myself wasn't just about getting back what was stolen, it was about reclaiming my voice, my strength, and my peace of mind. And that, more than anything, was the true victory. Months turned into years, and the shadow Evelyn had cast over our lives slowly dissipated. Daniel and I had settled into a healthier, more balanced dynamic. Our communication had improved, and the trust that had been fractured was now stronger. We even bought a modest but beautiful house far from the toxic environment his family had created. It felt like a fresh start in every sense of the word. One day, as I was sorting through some old boxes in our attic, I came across a journal that belonged to Aunt Maggie. I hadn't had the strength to go through her things after her passing, but now, curiosity overtook me. I sat down and began flipping through the pages. Each entry was a mixture of her thoughts, dreams, and lessons she had learned over the years. One entry stood out. It was dated a few years before her passing and read, "Asterisk, to my dear Lauren. If you're reading this, it means you've come into your inheritance. I hope you use it wisely, but more importantly, I hope you use it to create a life that makes you truly happy. Money is a tool, not a goal, and the real wealth in life is the love and peace you surround yourself with. Never let anyone take that from you, asterisk." Her words hit me like a tidal wave. Aunt Maggie had always been the voice of reason in my life, and even now, her wisdom guided me. For so long, I had focused on fighting to reclaim what Evelyn had taken, but I realized it wasn't the money that mattered. It was the sense of self-respect I had regained. That realization pushed me to start something new. I decided to use part of the inheritance to fund a program in Aunt Maggie's name, a community center that offered financial literacy classes, career counseling, and support for women going through difficult situations. It was my way of turning something painful into something meaningful, and it felt like a tribute to the woman who had believed in me. The center became a success. Women from all walks of life came through its doors, and each time I heard their stories of resilience and courage, I felt a deep sense of purpose. It wasn't just about helping them, it was about honoring the strength I had found within myself. As for Evelyn, I never heard from her again after that fateful day at the door. I sometimes wondered what became of her, but I never let it consume me. Daniel made peace with the estrangement, realizing that some relationships, even familial ones, are better left in the past. Life wasn't perfect. It never is, but it was mine, and I had built it on my own terms. Aunt Maggie's words stayed with me, a reminder that the best revenge isn't just reclaiming what was lost, but thriving in spite of it. And that's exactly what I did. Years later, the community center named after Aunt Maggie grew beyond anything I had imagined. What started as a small operation evolved into a thriving organization that not only helped women but also provided scholarships, mentorship programs, and even childcare services for struggling single parents. It became a beacon of hope for so many, and every time I walked through its doors, I felt a surge of pride. Aunt Maggie's legacy had become something beautiful, something that changed lives. Daniel supported me every step of the way. While his relationship with Evelyn had ended, he found solace in building a life centered around kindness and honesty. We had learned to prioritize what mattered most, our relationship and the values we wanted to uphold. One afternoon, as I was reviewing applications for a new mentorship program, I received an unexpected call. The voice on the other end was hesitant, almost unrecognizable. "Lauren," the voice said, "it's Evelyn." I froze. My immediate reaction was to hang up, but something in her tone stopped me. It wasn't the sharp, commanding voice I remembered. It was soft, almost pleading. "What do you want, Evelyn?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. I don't deserve your time, but I've heard about the center. What you've done is extraordinary." She paused, as if choosing her next words carefully. "I'm calling to apologize for everything." Her words took me by surprise. Evelyn was the last person I expected to admit fault. Part of me wanted to lash out, to remind her of the pain she had caused, but another part of me, the one shaped by Aunt Maggie's teachings, chose a different path. "I appreciate that," I said cautiously. "But an apology doesn't erase the damage you've done." "I know," she said, her voice cracking. "I've lost everything, Lauren. My friends, my reputation, even Daniel. I just wanted to say I'm sorry before it's too late." I didn't ask what she meant by too late. I didn't want to know. Evelyn had made her choices, and while I had found peace, I wasn't ready to let her back into my life. I told her I wished her well, then ended the call. Later that evening, I told Daniel about it. He listened quietly, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he simply said, "You handled it better than most would have." From that moment on, Evelyn became nothing more than a distant memory. Her chapter in my life was truly closed. As the years went on, Daniel and I continued to build our lives together. We started a family, and the lessons I had learned through my struggles with Evelyn became the foundation of how I raised our children. I taught them about boundaries, self-respect, and the importance of standing up for what's right. One day, as I watched our daughter play in the backyard, I thought about Aunt Maggie. She would have loved this. The life I had built, the person I had become. Her wisdom had been my guide through the darkest times, and now, her legacy was alive not just in the center that bore her name, but in the strength I had found within myself. Evelyn's greed may have tried to break me, but in the end, it only made me stronger. And that strength was the greatest revenge of all.